What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So there's some weird, mysterious thing happening on Amazon with Bethesda right now where it seems like they have like a placeholder title kind of up and no one really knows what it is. I have at least a guess myself, but we'll talk about what that mysterious game could be that they have posted now, probably ahead of E3. I assume that's where they would possibly reveal this new game that they have posted up. We'll go over that. Then we also found out from Nintendo why they erased their creators program that was kind of really causing issue on platforms like YouTube with creators, and it's about as obvious as you'd think it would be. So we'll talk about a bit about that as well as a lot of other stuff today, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, hit the like button. It does help out. We're actually starting today with Metro Exodus. Now, it's a game that came out, and of course we also had Crackdown and Anthem and others around it. But it seems to be the best received by critics, as it has over an 85 now on Metacritic, and people seem to be really enjoying the game. I'm actually going to be playing it probably today or tomorrow. I wanted to try Anthem first, and that's kind of bored me at this point, so I'm going to try out Metro Exodus and see how it goes. And it seems like people on PC, despite the issues with the Epic Store, seem to be enjoying it as well. And the way they're telling the world that is by leaving reviews on Steam's store. Yeah, a place you can't buy it, they're leaving reviews, and they're pretty much all positive. In fact, it's actually moved, remember, because they were review bombing at one point, they actually moved the needle back up to, like, positive. So it looks like at least the PC gamers are enjoying the game. I mean, Metro, it does have a lot of history on PC first, as, of course, you saw video cards and stuff get pushed heavily with tessellation back in the day, DirectX 11 and everything. So there was a lot of stuff kind of getting pushed around. I remember, like, the 5770 ATI card that I know Evan had. We took a look at it. It was running, like, 8 frames per second, but hey, looked really good. Yeah, so I'm not surprised that PC gamers are enjoying it. I think it's more funny that Epic does not at all give the buyers a way to tell people that it's good through reviews, and so they decide to go to Steam, similar to how they went to Steam with message boards for issues and other games like Axiom Verge. But hey, I guess the Epic Store will get better. We'll see. Well, so what I think is probably the best cabinet so far from Arcade1Up. We've talked about them before, where they have their arcade cabinets. They're a bit smaller, lighter, but they try to bring pretty much the arcade feel into your living room at a much cheaper price than what an actual cabinet would really cost. These are usually around $300 to $400, but they at least try to give a better feel than, I guess, what the money would normally get you if you want to buy an arcade machine. For that kind of money, it's usually going to be messed up in some kind of way, or you just have to get really lucky. These are brand new. You have to assemble them, but it shows up with a bunch of cool IPs, like we've seen Street Fighter, of course, we've seen Rampage, Centipede, a lot of the classics. Well, it looks like Mortal Kombat is showing up. We've talked about that before, but according to them at a recent convention, it's actually going to be in May, is what it seems to be, and it's going to be Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 on a single arcade cabinet. I'm going to have to get that, because that is an awesome value from what they're describing there, with all 3 of them on there.
Now in May. In fact, that's perfect timing for May. May, we're going to rotate in Mortal Kombat for all you Mortal Kombat fans. This comes with Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3.
Now, I'm not sure what the price is, but they've already said the range is $300 to $400. But for that kind of experience, in basically an arcade almost in your own house with Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, 2 different players there you can use, that is awesome. I'm in for that whenever they do decide to release it in May. I thought it'd be coming out later this year, but yeah, May, we'll just see if we get an actual release date and we can get one of those, and I'll even check it out possibly on the channel, just because I'm a big fan of Mortal Kombat, especially the old school ones, and if I get like an arcade and everything set up, that'd be really cool. Also, just in, I guess, why not news, we've talked about Shakedown Hawaii, that we're still waiting for it to come out. It's been talked about forever now, and I'm hoping it comes out soonish. But in an interview on Electronic Playground, Brian is actually working on the game right now, talked a bit about how previously he had kind of played around with the idea of taking Retro City Rampage and putting it on other systems, like the Game Boy Advance, is what he said. To be honest, I would love, after Shakedown Hawaii is done, to go back and do something like that. I love tinkering with old hardware. I actually did get Retro City Rampage running on the Game Boy Advance, and so that was really fun. I haven't really unveiled it too much, but it was just a hobby. I'd say it's 85% done. There are a few frame rate hiccups, and that would be really cool, by the way, if they went back with some of these type of games, right, where it's a bit easier for some of these older systems to play. What kind of world would that be, where some of these companies take these kind of games, these smaller indie-style games that have more simplistic visuals, and actually started putting them on older systems again, like a Game Boy Advance. You know what? I would buy a cartridge of Retro City Rampage for the Game Boy Advance just to have it, because that is a really cool thing. They put it in a box and manual, I'd definitely buy it, but even if they just release like the cartridges, that'd be kind of cool. That could be kind of like a new fad, I guess, in the industry, where they start releasing these newer games for older hardware that can actually handle it. I'd get one of those. Let me know if you would. Then, guys, some of the quick news out of the way. Let's get into the bigger stuff. We're actually going to start today with the Mega SG from Analog. It is a very, very cool looking piece of hardware that's coming out in April, actually. So a few months from now, you'll be able to pick it up. And you may have already pre-ordered it because you may have had some kind of experience with their Super Nintendo system that I actually have, and I need to check it out a bit further. But I'm hoping to take that apart and see what we can get from it there. But Analog has released systems that rely on hardware through FPGA rather than emulation that you've seen with things like the Retron systems, for example, Retron 5, and that presents some issues with lag and things like that. No, this is an actual piece of hardware that's running everything, so it's, according to them, lagless, and then it also goes through HDMI, so it looks great. They're bringing out the Mega SG, which is the Genesis version. It's also going to play, of course, Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, and then also Master System games, and it's going to have a side slot for the Sega CD. We've talked about that before. It looks really cool, and I'll probably look into it, maybe get one. But the thing now is they're going to be packing something in digitally. It's going to come on the system, it seems. It's not going to be like a cartridge. And it's a game called Hardcore. And this is a game that was canceled back in, I think, 1994. The problem with this was it ran up right against the end of the Genesis lifespan, similar to what happened with Star Fox 2, where the PS1 was out and Nintendo was like, well, this can't really compete with the PS1 games. We got to move on to the 64. Hardcore was a similar situation with the Saturn showing up soon. It didn't seem like it made a lot of sense. And what's really cool about this is, yeah, they're going to actually include it. Analog is going to include this game digitally with every Mega SG that they sell. There's also going to be kind of like a limited batch that's made for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita as well by another company. But this is the one that's really caught some people's eyes. This is going to be on actual hardware that was originally designed for. And according to them, the original source code was found on a hard drive, and they just have access to it. They happen to get access to it, so they're going to be releasing it on hardware that it was meant to be played on, and that's really exciting. Now, the really interesting thing is this was made by Digital Illusions, and you know who they are. You might not know them by that name, but you know them by DICE, who's with EA now. Yeah, that was their game back in the day, and it's like a 2D Contra-style game, and what a cool thing to pack in. So, hey, I guess if you're a retro collector and you want to have that on actual hardware, you gotta go get that Mega SG. That's a good way, by the way, just to sell a system like that, and Analog should look into doing that more and more if they can. I know source code like this doesn't just fall into your lap every day, but hey, I mean, maybe even try to go out there and get something like that to pack in. That's a cool piece to have for someone who's already a collector. Now they get a game that they've definitely never played before. Next up, let's talk about something that's been pretty much obvious to us forever now, since YouTube has really taken off, and Twitch, for example, where we like to watch games get played before we maybe buy them and help us, you know, get an idea. That mixed with reviews. We have so many tools now to figure out if a game is something that is worth our money compared to back in the day where we'd have to read magazines and kind of judge by pictures rather than video. Much easier now, but Nintendo's kind of made it harder on creators in the past, where they had their creators program where they didn't want people to monetize the videos without them getting some sort of cut from it, and it's turned a lot of creators off from that, and it was a whole thing. Of course, we know now at the end of last year, at the end of 2018, they removed those restrictions, and now you can pretty much play gameplay video in a transformative fashion, which basically means you can't just, I guess, throw it up there and say gameplay. And that's it. You have to have some kind of voiceover or something else going on, or, of course, be showing some part of the game. Much better that way. Well, Nikki actually had an interview with them, and it was probably the most obvious thing, and I don't know why it's taken this long. I feel like something internally happened, and this is actually part of the summary from it. Nintendo said they found that Let's Play videos and other gameplay videos have helped to convey the appeal of games to viewers and consumers. Thus, creators on Nintendo and Nico Nico could now fully monetize Let's Play videos of Nintendo games if they wanted to. So, yes, I don't really get this one because it's very, very obvious. That's why I feel like it's so obvious. Something else had to have been going on internally. Maybe in Japan, they, for some reason, thought it was better to get the money from those videos rather than get the benefits of a game being sold to a consumer. I don't know if they were looking at more the short term rather than the long term, but in a world with Super Mario Maker and then Mario Maker 2 coming up, you want everyone playing this thing. When Mario Maker 2 comes out with these restrictions off, it's going to be out of control. It's going to take over Twitch right away, right? It's going to take over Twitch. There's going to be so many videos of people miserable playing. Okay, miserable because, you know, those kind of levels where it's like you keep dying over and over and over and it's super hard. But there's going to be some fun levels too, obviously. But people love watching that and they want to play it when they see people playing it. So it all makes sense. And I guess Nintendo's just... I guess they just decided, you know what, we'd make more money if we just allow them to do it. It seems super obvious to us, but keep in mind, Nintendo had this creator program going for years just to try to get, to them, it'd be pennies on the dollar for what they'd get if they let people play it, and I guess they are now. It's just super weird that they even had to kind of go out there with that reasoning because it's, I wouldn't even have said anything about it. I said, yeah, we should have done it a while ago, we're doing it now, and I'll tell you the reason, but it's stupidly obvious. Next up, let's talk about Bethesda, because of course they've been in hot water for Fallout 76, well, since it came out. As soon as it came out, people realized it's a terrible game, apparently, and there you go. It's terrible Metacritic scores, it's become a joke, they had terrible PR, that's a whole thing. But it's always exciting to see if Bethesda wants to release a different game outside of Fallout 76, because while that wasn't a great game, there are some pretty good games that they've put out. Like, you know, we've had, of course, Doom, Wolfenstein, and the other Elder Scrolls games. And now we're looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield and maybe something else. I mean, we even saw Prey, and that was really good. It just didn't sell well. Well, after Wario 64 actually spotted a few listings from Amazon for the PS4, the PC, and the Xbox One, and it seems to be a placeholder for different Bethesda games, which is odd. They all, of course, have those placeholder dates of basically the last day of this year, and it always makes us feel that there is something coming at some point from them, but now we're trying to figure out what would Bethesda be releasing here. There have been a lot of theories kind of getting thrown around, like maybe it's like that's for Wolfenstein the Youngblood or something else, but I was actually kind of thinking it might be a sequel to Prey? Like, would it be Prey 2? I mean, sure, Prey came out, what, almost 2 years ago now, and maybe they would have something built on a similar engine and everything and kind of set up, and they would just make a sequel to it, because the game itself, Prey, was really good. It got great reviews. People seem to really like it. It just went under the radar and just didn't sell great. So that's the one thing that's kind of an issue. The bit of a hiccup there is, if it didn't sell well, would they do a full sequel for it? Maybe it's like a situation where they can build onto the game easier because they already have the first one and make another one. Maybe give it another shot since the fans have started to really like the game. It has a bit of a cult following now. So that's kind of my thought there, is that it would be a Prey 2, but it seems like they're gearing up for something. And I think this would be more for E3 because we are, I mean, it sounds crazy. We're not that far from E3 at this point, right? We're less than 4 months from E3. We're like 3.5 months. So we're coming up on it. I feel like these listings could be for that, unless they wanted to announce it ahead of E3 and then showcase it at E3. But interesting stuff here either way to see these placeholders go up. Let me know what Bethesda game you could see showing up here. It could even be a new IP. I was just thinking kind of sequel here, but let me know. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about something from the homebrew world with the Switch. And that actually has to do with the different operating system being loaded and run on the system. And that actually has to do with Android on the Switch, as you're seeing a Twitter video here from Max Keller, where they managed to not only get Android on the system, they also managed to have it work with touch support. This is kind of neat. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it's going to become something massive. I think this is more of a hobby thing, but because, of course, the Switch is run on ARM-based chipset and everything, it's probably a bit more compatible and a bit easier. Maybe Pokemon Go could work on it, although it doesn't have any GPS support there, so I don't really know. Maybe you could spoof it. I don't know how any of that would work, but of course, I guess you could also do emulators on it for Android, technically. But this is just a neat little project to see kind of happening here with Android on the Switch. I don't think it's going to turn into anything massive or anything like that. And of course, you have like a hacked Switch, which is getting harder now if you go out and buy a Switch than it was before. But either way, kind of cool to see the homebrew world come up with more and more stuff for the Switch, which has become a very versatile system in that department, with the homebrew scene really gathering around it. It's turned into a pretty cool system for that. Kind of the successor to what the PSP, the Vita, and then the Switch is, where they all kind of had a lot of homebrew around it. And I guess the Wii technically as well, but the Switch is the new hot thing in the homebrew world. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's that mystery Bethesda game. What do you think it is? Because, like I said, I think it's Prey 2, but I'm curious what your thoughts on it are. And then, of course, what do you think about Nintendo and their peeling the creators program back? It seems obvious to me. Again, this is part of the interview, and it's something that shouldn't have never existed in the first place. I'm not even really sure why the creators program was put in there, but they even talked about fan art and said we don't really care as much unless you just start, I don't know, just abusing it completely, and then we got to get involved in like video game asset stuff. But either way, let me know about that, guys, down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.